I'll call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Rules Committee, the representative town meeting. And first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of April 3rd. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Ann. A second. Thank you, Mike. Corrections, additions. I'll let you ready?
Seeing none.
Yeah, right. Hearing none, ready to vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Don't hear any. It's unanimous. Abstentions. You can give them to Mark after the meeting. Okay, next item is talking about our agenda. And first item is the selectmen voting to increase the dollar amount. That's just an announcement from me, required by the, don't ask me why, but it's in Appendix B. So the second one.
Can I just
yes,
want to make it, Kate and I were talking about this. Effective after our meeting, the new amount is $12,500. So it's not beginning of next year. It's like we have some
May 9th.
It's once the announcement is made to the RTM, it is effective. That's per weight.
Okay, that's great. The next item is acceptance of the Darien Foundation grant for the Darien Police Department, PH&S and F&B.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And that's our last 10,000 gift.
Okay, then let's might as well switch over to the warning, because the rest of the assignments are all there. Now we'll start from the appropriation $2.5 million. That's just a straight F&B.
Yep.
Right. Then we get into action on the budget, the reserve fund. That seems to be F&B.
No. So F&B will do an introduction and talk at a very high level. But at this time, that's when all the chairs of the Board of Selectmen operating committees will report on the capital included in their areas of responsibility. I'm going to just do a high level comparison this year to last year. Also talk about the funding of how we're doing it, because our funding, there are some things that have changed this year. One of the things that have changed is we're taking the 2.5 million out of the general fund. All right, that's a transfer that's going on. But this year for taxes, there's two parts that we're taxing for. The first is the total operating debt service. The other is capital, because once we tax, the amount used to go into the general fund and then from the general fund into the capital account. This year, it's going directly into the capital account. And part of that is because depending upon how much we actually fund, the general fund goes up and down. This gives it a more steady approach. So it was approved, it was proposed by Jen and Kate. Board of Finance approved it, and you'll see that when we're talking about the mill rate eventually, I'm going to mention that 20 basis points of the mill rate are specific for the capital fund that's being raised through taxes. So, but to start with, I'm going to give an overview, but then each of those committees will report on their capital. I'm not reporting on everyone's capital.
So,
including
right.
Education in that particular case.
So you're talking about the capital
So this
across
is
the board,
capital,
though.
all
We're
right.
talking about.
capital, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to do the high level 4.6 mil,
Yeah.
all right, which is what's approved. But if we're talking that, the Board of Ed is doing the auditorium, then the Education Committee would be reporting on that then. If we're talking about the aerator for the Black Lagoon for $18,000.
It's the park.
Green.
What?
Green, the Green Lagoon.
Yeah. But the Black Lagoon was the.
I got it.
Then obviously Park and Rec and so on and so forth. I think it's better for the committees to report on those areas.
All right,
You have better knowledge of it than I.
so, good enough. We've got Park and Rec, and who else is gonna be in?
Well, you're gonna have everyone,
Everyone?
everyone except,
Public Works,
I
And
know.
TGS&A.
TGS&A. Everybody else is going to report there.
Okay,
Where I'm having trouble with that, Jack, is 4.6, the capital items, did they look at 4.6 or is more than that? You just not recalling the aggregate number.
Wait, pardon me for a second. No,
That's the totality of the capital items. Okay, I thought it was more. Okay.
Yep.
So I'll.
and this year, there's no bonding of any capital items. So it's a pure, this is what's being spent on capital.
okay. All right, that's good.
Why is there no bonding?
Because
the money's
it
already
was,
happened.
because doesn't matter. There's no bonding.
Okay. You don't want to hear.
No, the reality is it's very
You
hard
wanna go to the
bond some of
weeds, we
this.
can go real.
Yeah, it's hard to bond some
That's
of
the
it.
point.
They have to meet certain criteria, and based upon what the cash flow and what the Board of Finance thought that they thought was appropriate, they decided not to bond anything. That works.
All right. Then the selectmen's operating budget, again, you're gonna lead that off?
I'm gonna lead it, but I'm gonna do something different than I did last year. So I'm just gonna give an overview. Everybody reports, each of the departments now report on their operating budget. But then if you remember last year, I reported on both the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen's budget on what was their core business and the increases associated with their core business and what's growth and what's included in the growth side. So if I do that up front, it diminishes.
Ed Bushek is not gonna be happy because he's gonna be,
No, this doesn't include it. So on the Board of Selectmen, it doesn't include.
no, not the selectmen, but I meant, you said you're gonna do Ed too.
Well, I will do it. In the first one, Ed has to talk about the cap.
Yes, sir.
Ed leads the next one. And on the next one, I'm going to do the same thing for education, talking about their core versus growth. Which I'm already working on with Rich Rudel. I have the initial draft. And I will tell you that I had a conversation with Duke and John Cini. And Duke mentioned that he was talking to other superintendents. And he's mentioned that this is a process that we're now using in Darien. And the other superintendents thought it was really a great idea to explain their budgets. Worked well last year. Both Kate and Rich thought it did a nice job explaining their budgets in a very simplistic way. And so we're going to do it again. But I would like to do that after everybody gives their committee reports, then I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm basically giving some of the committee reports. And,
Right.
and so, and then what we negotiate is things like, I'll do education because that's sort of easiest. If it's an additional staff in special ed, that's a core business of theirs by law core. However, even though we had Director of Mental Health added this year and the security officers added this year, that will be considered growth in the new budget because it wasn't in the original budget that we approved last year. And we'll be able to explain that they came on board, self-funded, blah, 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 and go from there.
Okay, so we're thinking just taking the selectmen's operating budget, you're gonna lead and then the rest follow?
And then the rest follow, but I'm just giving high level, and then I come back in at the end.
All right,
I can write this up if it helps Mark and yourself out.
I'm gonna write a memo that's going out to all the committee chairs about how this is gonna work, just so that they're not surprised. So, we'll talk.
All right. On the education operating budget, Ed has always led, because that's the education committee.
Right.
And then he's gonna give all the detail. I'm just gonna talk mainly about growth. All right.
Okay.
The other thing that I will be talking about, and both of those, is that we've had significant funds being returned to the general fund at the end of this year's budget. Now, some of that is easily explained. There's been a lot of vacancies, Board of Selectmen, and on the Board of Ed side, ECR came in much higher on the Board of Ed side as well. So I just want to explain, because the reason we have the $2.5 million hanging out there is because we have large amounts of money coming in from this year's budget that were budgeted but not spent. Big money. Now,
So
on the total budget, it's not
So,
really
yeah,
horrible, like
And then,
1%.
and then
maybe.
yes.
But there are things that people did in this year's budget to reduce that going forward. So as an example, on the police department, Kate put in $100,000 vacancy line item is almost a contra account. We needed all the jobs approved and appropriated so that they can hire. But like in the last 5-10 years, we had a full staff for maybe 2 weeks, and that ended when the most recent gentleman took retirement.
So the vacancy is an offset.
Yeah, it's an offset to that. So that, because that was part of the reason why they were coming in, the police department was coming in. I know during the review with the Board of Finance and the RTM members, it was raised, what have you been giving back over the years? To which I understand Chief Anderson says, just ask Jack, he'll know. Which I do. Don isn't the best with numbers, but he also knows that I can give the explanation that most of those funds that are coming back weren't because they had fluff in the budget, it's because they have vacancies. And the overtime isn't offsetting all of the vacancies.
All right. So the next thing we go to is the total appropriations in general fund. That's just an F&D. You have to move that.
Mill rate is us.
And you have to move the mill rate, right?
Yep,
That's
I'm
F&D.
gonna do the moving of the mill rate, also an explanation, because everybody just thinks you take the grand list, divide it, but there's a lot of adjustments to the grand list. And we also need to discuss how we're moving the funds being raised from taxes, how some of it's going directly to the capital account and how the others going into the general.
Are you giving
My apologies.
what level of detail are you gonna go through on that?
Pretty good detail. I think we should not just take, oh, this is the calculation, here's your mill rate, thank you very much. We're a legislative body. We should understand one of the most important things we're going to be doing this year, which is what's the budget for the boards next year. So it's, the more they hear it, the more it sinks in.
Okay. Borrowing up to 5 million, that's F&D.
Yep.
Other appropriations.
So I introduced that. And then for the 3 sewer appropriations and the 2 parking, Mark, that's yours. Adele, the recreation you did last year as well, so that you get to explain the recreation fund. So I'll just do the moving, the explanations come in, and I'm meeting with Kate tomorrow because on June 22nd of last year, when we approved Great Island, even though we didn't own it, we actually set up the special revenue fund for Great Island. And even though it took some time, the revenue expenses are in it for now. I just need to be able to explain that a little bit better. And so Kate and I are going to be going over that tomorrow, actually.
The parkings are
Speak to,
public, you got
I
public
got it.
works on those. Okay.
Sewer, parking.
Yeah.
and quite honestly,
All at
Oh,
one
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Do it all at one time.
That was very
Yeah.
quick.
quite honestly, Public Works follows that throughout the year. So they know what's going on. It's not anything difficult. Well, it is for the rest of us.
So, you're gonna give an overview, and then Mark is going to move each one of these items?
No, just explain each one of them.
I'll explain. Okay, so it's F and B primary, and you're gonna move it.
Yeah, and I'll give the resolution, what the amounts are, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll give an explanation of what those funds entail, what it is, self-funding. This, what's here, that last year or the year before, we moved into a special revenue fund for Park and Rec.
Program.
Yeah, for the programs. So, so that gets dealt with. And that brings us to 23,
So that does it, 2315. It's,
and that's F.
starting from the top, it's sewer operating is marked, sewer assessments marked, sewer capital is marked. You have a big night.
Highlighted was your.
The sewers, that, and then, well, Mark has the, oh, no, except for Adele has the last
Adele
one.
has the last one.
Adele has the last one.
Bring it
Back
on
to
home,
F&B.
Adele.
Okay,
You got it. You got it.
all right, 2315,
F and B.
F and B.
And since there's no bondings, this should go over rather quick.
That's it. Can I have a motion to set the agenda for the RTM meeting on May 8th? And I would suggest we use this,
Order?
just refer to this.
It's just, we're missing 9 to adjourn.
Oh, well, we usually don't, strangely enough, it's not on there. I don't know why, but I'll take a motion
Okay.
for sure. All right, great. So we have a motion to use the warning that I sent out as the warning for the RTM meeting on May 8th. Ann and Teresa are on a roll here, primary and second. Ready to vote? All in favor? Okay. Opposed? I see none. Abstentions? I see none.
Before we
That's it.
adjourn this meeting, I'd like to raise
Oh, I
some
was
new
trying to slip
business.
in there quickly. but
No,
go
no,
ahead.
this will be quick.
Go ahead, Jack.
There was really good feedback on the discussion, and I know there was a little mix up. Both Mark and Ralph were prepared to give the discussion, but there was really good feedback on the discussion that Public Works made on the public hearing that's going on, what's going on with some of the sewer projects and other things like that. I think as we go forward throughout the course of the year and next year, rather than bringing in some people, I think if there's something that's going on that's a little bit hot in town, we should have our committees report on that to start it off. To just give some explanation on that, because I think that they're in good stead in what's happening. So not every meeting, but if there's something that's coming up other than Great Island, if there's something coming up, the committees can report on that based on what they're following. And it's up to the committee chairs to say I think this would be a good discussion topic.
I think it's good. I think, as well, I've liked having the economic development folks from Norwalk and we couldn't do it this year because there was too much else going on, but I've gone up to, just in my work, have gone to join the Bridgeport Regional Business Council and sit in there and listen, and you get a really, you get a different idea of what's going on in the state. And they're the largest city, and it's really interesting. And I think having our neighbors talk about where they're going, what they're doing, right after the state of the town is not a bad idea. Just kind of a feel for what's going on. Another option might be just to have the Westcog, maybe somebody from there speak, but we don't hear much about Westcog here, really. And we drive going north and south on I-95. We're going right through Stamford and Norwalk every day, so we get a chance to see, a little bit about physical things which are going on. But I think it's helpful to have them. It's early for that. We wouldn't do it till January anyway, after the state of the town. But it's something that I agree with you on the.
I mean, we're going to have some issues coming up, not issues, but there's going to be some developments on what's going on with ARPA, because some of the projects that Ralph was mentioning are coming in much higher than what we anticipated on ARPA. So there's either today or whatever, they were talking about reconstitute, or it was on when we had the RTM, reconstituting that meeting. There is a question of whether or not, if they make changes, it has to go to the Board of Finance and the RTM again, but that's not for tonight.
I heard that they were reforming the committee. Did you have some folks from F&B on that?
You have to have someone take.
Yes, I did have somebody who's no longer here, so Kate told me that I have to find somebody else on that.
Right, okay.
So
Jack, are any of the projects coming in lower? Do you know? Or any of the projects sticking to their budget? Maybe that's.
have you seen any unicorns? No, the fact of the matter is, with the increased costs and other things that have occurred, it's not unreasonable. Plus, people were making guesstimates on some of the larger capital projects without having the studies done. Once you come in with the study, then especially with public works, because I don't think there's anyone in this room who doesn't appreciate how it comes in on a project and how he develops his numbers. So we knew they were estimates then.
Okay. New business, anybody? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Yeah, second. Good. Mark, got you. All those in favor, please rise.